Well, what a feeling it must be. Well, hurtling through thin air, just jumping out of a plane and a few thousand feet above the earth. Well, having the wind go by, feel the wind in your face, quite a feeling. And we've got here in the studios with us a man who can tell us a lot more about what the feeling is like and a lot more about the sport, because he's been into it for over 2 decades now. And he's also, at this point of time, the Honorary Director Aero Sports at the Aero Club of India. We have here with us retired Wing Commander Sanjay Thapar. Pleasure to have you here with us, Sanjay.
Thank you.
Well, there's just so much that we can keep going on and on about as far as you're concerned, but you're also the first Indian to have paraglided over the North Pole. That was way back in 1996. We just start with the first question first. How did you ever get into this particular hobby and sport of paratrooping and paragliding?
Well, to be truthful, it was never dreamt, it was never thought, it was never planned. It's all the courtesy Indian Air Force. When I joined the Air Force, even at that stage I never thought of. Once I got exposed to it, once I got an opportunity to get into it, and then everything kept coming, and I kept going along. I never perceived all these things, but yes, today I am a proud Indian to have been in the Air Force and climbed all these ladders.
I'm sure it's been over 2 decades now, Sanjay, since you made your first professional jump and made your first jump. Do you still recall the feeling? What was it like the first time you leapt out of the aircraft and felt yourself falling through thin air?
Well, yes, not me. I'm sure all the jumpers, nobody can ever forget his first jump, because that is the most memorable and the best jump of your career. Truthfully, you're scared, you're apprehensive, so you're trained, but yet the feeling of unknown is there. You need to see physically and actually what happens. So it was a great feeling, and all the training which was given, which came in handy, but there are many things which happened which I didn't remember.
The first thing that they say is in training is, do remember when you've got to pull your chute and make sure where the
that part I remembered well. That's how I'm here today.
No, but apart from that, when you go through training, there's a lot of theoretical aspect that you're taken through, a lot of things that you should do, checklists and work. But how much of it does really remain in your mind when you're hurtling through thin air?
Well, since I had the privilege of being trained in the most prestigious Air Force para school, the para training school at Agra, which is older than the independent India, each thing is so nicely designed, drilled, that there is just no room for error. The training syllabuses, the instructors, everything is so well planned that they make sure that before you go for your first jump, you are absolutely ready for it.
I'm sure. We'd also like to share with our viewers at this point of time some images of what is it like to actually be hurtling through thin air, and what does the feel like when you get a bird's eye view of the earth down below. Well, we'll just have Sanjay Thapar talk us through some of these images that are coming up on your screen right now.
This is a jump in Paratroopers Training School, Agra, which we are making out of an AN-32 aircraft. This is flying free before opening the parachute. This is in the process of opening the parachute. This is one more shot. This is where you have pulled your handle and parachute is in the process of coming out. Here the parachute is deployed. You are flying it all the way to come in and landing. This is a canopy relative work. This is again a 3-man formation.
Quite interesting, I must say. Now, Sanjay, you've undertaken the highest number of jumps as far as an Indian is concerned, more than 3,000 jumps to your credit. In fact, 3,546 jumps to your credit. There are a lot of things that you must have learnt along the way, things that probably you weren't taught, or things that couldn't be taught during your training sessions. And you've been through it practically, you've been through the training sessions as well. How do you think times have changed now over the last 2 decades? From the time you started off, went through your training process, and now that you're in the process of training other young jumpers as well?
Practically everything has changed now. When I did my first jump, from then to now, talking of the armed forces, the platforms have changed, the aeroplanes have changed, the parachutes have changed, the equipment has changed, the techniques have changed, so on and so forth. And the biggest thing which which will be concerning everyone is not the military parachuting but the sports parachuting. Well, 20 years back there is somebody called Captain Shamsher from the army and his wife Sheshla. These are the two couple who made a beginning in India. And thereafter, from then to now, the parachuting is very safe. You know, now the equipment is so good designed that you don't need 1 month hard training before you go and make your first jump and so on. Probably now it's 3 days of session is good enough for on a 4th day for you to jump. And the safety, the parachutes are so good. There is a main, there is a reserve, there is an automatic opening device taking care of it. All this makes it so good and comfortable. I can say driving a bike in Delhi is more dangerous than jumping out of airplanes now.
Well, I don't know how many people would actually agree with that, but then to agree with it, you have to undertake a jump first and then figure it out for yourself. But the man is letting you know that is somebody who's been through a lot, so you've got to take him for his word simply because he is one of the most experienced people around. Now, Sanjay, talking about sport and talking about para jumping and parachuting as a sport, India, where does it stand as far as the world scale is concerned?
Unfortunately, rock bottom.
That's as direct as it can get, but what are the reasons for this? Is it because the sport is yet to catch on? Is adventure sport not as widely followed or practiced in India, or is it more to do with it than just interest levels?
Well, what I would say is there is a variety of reasons. First of all, skydiving is an expensive sport. It's not that you buy a football which costs you 250 rupees and 22 players start playing. Here is a piece of equipment which costs you in lakhs. A parachute will cost you perhaps about 2 to 3 lakhs. You need an aeroplane to jump out from. You need safety services. You need an organizational support and so on and so forth. So first reason is we as a developing country lagged behind for resources. That is A. B is there is not enough exposure available to people, because now with multinationals with so much of money, sponsors ready to pay and things like that, I would say that money is not really the problem in as on dates India.
Sanjay, just talking about finances and taking up that particular issue क्योंकि आपने उस बात के बारे में बात करी है, अंदाज़न एक एवरेज स्पोर्ट्स जंप करने के लिए, एक एवरेज पैरा जंप करने के लिए, as far as sporting discipline is concerned, how much does it approximately cost?
In India, it will cost you something between 5 to 10,000 rupees each
per jump
for a person who is trained to jump by himself, not taking into account the training which one will need. If one is trained and he wants to jump, it will cost him between 5 to 10,000. And abroad, this particular jump is available for $15 to $20.
That's a remarkable and a market difference in the costing per se. What are the reasons for this?
The reason is there is so much of skydiving which takes place, and we use bigger aeroplanes in our country. They have smaller aeroplanes. Even if 5 chaps want to do skydiving, you have smaller aeroplanes who will be prepared to take 2 or 3, and the cost of operation is so low. The regulations permit them virtually everything the way they wish to do it, and of course they have the guarding factor which are their licensing and the overall control which gets, so that makes it cheaper there. And like if I talk of today the America, or we talk of the Russia today, the jumpers are in tens of thousands. You must have seen last week George Bush making his jump on the 80th birthday.
Yes, sir. And it was an aided jump, I believe. He'd undertaken a similar jump when he turned 75, but that was an unaided jump. This time when he jumped on his 80th birthday, it was an aided jump. There was another paratrooper who was jumping along with him on the same parachute. But pretty interesting parallels being drawn there. And talking about parachuting, incidentally, Sanjay also happens to be the first Indian who has jumped over the North Pole, and this was way back in 1996. Let's take a quick glimpse of what this was like. Sanjay, can you talk us through?
This is at the North Pole. This is with the Indian flag, proud Indian flag with me at the North Pole on the 21st of April 1996. All that the heaps of ice you can see is the North Pole.
That's unbelievable. What is the experience like? Freezing temperatures, making the jump. How long did it take you?
Well, it was a jump of the lifetime. There was a big selection process which started in '96 where I was selected and I was sent. I can only tell you one good factor. That is, when I started from Delhi, it was plus 32, and what I touched the minimum during this jump was minus 68.
Great.
So there is a 100-degree variation.
Maybe more, 130 degrees. You went from positive to negative and back.
Yes. So it was a great jump, and I was part of a expedition which was organized by the Russian Red Cross, a para-rescue center. We were 26 jumpers from 19 countries, and it was a great jump.
I can imagine. But then a lot of accolades, a lot of recognition comes in when you undertake such a jump, jumping over the North Pole, becoming the first Indian to do so, and that too 8 years ago, especially when a sport wasn't popular at all at that point of time. Have things changed dramatically ever since?
Yes, very valid and very good question. When I went, there was a process of about 3 to 4 months which was of selection, and the organizers had sent such a long list of requirements. The minimum was that 1000 jumps one must have who wants to come in and jump at North Pole. As on today, you may like to go and do your first jump at North Pole.
Does that mean to say that I'm actually eligible? I can go ahead and undertake a jump, but at my own risk?
Well, absolutely right. You are eligible as long as you can afford to pay for it. If you pay for it, you can go and make your first jump at North Pole today.
So it's purely now a more of a commercially driven sport rather than having those basic norms set in place which were in place years ago.
Obviously, if there was a QR for somebody to be having minimum 1000 jumps before you jump at North Pole, and now you have an offer of making your first jump at North Pole, I would not like to use the word commercial, but well, it is, I think, tourism.
Okay, but wherever you look at this particular aspect, whenever, there's always another aspect which is closely associated with it, and that is the aspect of security or the safety of the paratrooper or the jumper. Now, is there enough that's being done or has been done as far as the safety aspect is concerned?
Well, when we talk of the jump at the North Pole, what happens is all the international expeditions, when they get you and when you are involved there as an expert parachutist, so the equipment and all other aspects is supposed to be taken care by you yourself. The organizers don't take any responsibility for it, but it is much safer. I remember 2-3 years back, Coordinator Kamal Singh Ober made a jump at the South Pole, and a year preceding that there were 3 foreigners who died while making a jump at the South Pole. What happens is the accidents do take place, and one has to be very cautious. And as India, we are very proud. Since I know the parachuting in India for more than 2 decades, we are very proud of our safety record. All over the world, there are about 80 people who get killed every year. But in India, we don't let it happen, even I would say once a decade.
Well, that's pretty heartening to hear that at least once less is better. And it's definitely that way, and it's really good that we have those safety standards in place. But a personal question here, Sanjay. First man to jump over the North Pole way back in '96. The idea of jumping over the South Pole never crossed your mind?
Well, it did come, but I didn't have the money. You need to have money. South Pole or North Pole or maybe many other jumps such as making very high altitude jumps or crossing the channels while in the canopy and all, it is all feasible. Mind you, you need money to do that.
So that was the only aspect that probably might have weighed you down. Otherwise, well, the parachute would have flown.
Absolutely.
Okay, but Sanjay, there's another thing. You also hold another record. There's your name figures in the Limca Book of Records for a world record that you have, and that was jumping with the Indian flag, the national flag, which was measuring 2,226 square feet, and this was in August in '97. We'll just show some of our viewers images of this particular jump, and we'll have Sanjay talk us through this.
Now
this is while I'm preparing to do this jump and actually not setting a record. At that point in time, I was trying to beat the existing world record, which was from a Norwegian, Mr. Paul Bergen, who had jumped with a flag 2,100 feet in size. He had preceded an American record, which was 2,006 square feet. So this I had planned it. That's how I made a jump with 2,226 square feet, wanting to beat them all.
क्या इस बार तिरंगा आसमान में लहराएगा? सपना पूरा होगा?
This is a jump at one of the Air Force bases where the record jump was carried out.
बधाई संजय, शान से लहराने लगा भारत की शान तिरंगा, विजयी विश्व तिरंगा प्यारा। इसी के साथ कायम हुआ एक और नया रिकॉर्ड और स्क्वाड्रन लीडर संजय थापर का नाम एक बार फिर दर्ज हुआ लिम्का बुक ऑफ रिकॉर्ड्स में।
जन्मभूमि है हमारी शान से कहेंगे हम, सब ही तो भाई भाई प्यार से रहेंगे हम। Congratulations Sanjay.
Breathtaking visuals indeed, spectacular visuals, spectacular shots indeed, things that we could see right now on screen. Now, just talking to Sanjay a bit about that particular jump, Sanjay. The flag unfurling just after you'd jumped out, falling a few hundred feet, 1,000 feet through the thin air, you unfurled the flag. In terms of technical parlance, was there a great deal of technical difficulty involved in the jump? Could you talk us through that?
You know, I had been jumping flags starting from the small flags to this largest flag many a time on different occasions. Like I started with the biggest flag way back in one of the national championships, was 400 feet. And slowly and steadily I graduated, and when I talked through the friends abroad, that is the time this idea came. Now what happens is, while your parachute is flying, when you have a flag and it is fluttering underneath, it disturbs the aerodynamics of your canopy. And if you noticed, I had used a military canopy and not a sports canopy, and yet there was the angle of attack of the parachute was more, which doesn't make the landing very comfortable. But well, it's a national flag which I was jumping with, so I was not to jettison it in any case. I was to carry it with me all the down way. But more than that, the planning, the success of this jump attributes more to the whole team than to just me and myself. All those who helped me go through the trials, all those who helped me design the flag and then assisted me and helped me carry out this final jump.
I can imagine, but talking about the aerodynamics being, coming into question as far as this particular jump is concerned, safety hazards?
Well, it was all taken care of. We had not only planned the successful part of it, we had also planned the unsuccessful part of it. While I did the trials, twice the flag did not fly properly, it got stuck. So there was a provision kept that should that be so, I will jettison the flag and the whole dump will come in and I will be safe. And if you notice the date, it was done on the August 1997.
True.
This was incidentally the 50th year of India's independence. And after I made this jump, I was called in by my air chief and told me, could you do this jump at the Red Fort on the 15th of August? But only for safety reasons this jump was not performed, because should there be a problem, if I jettison this flag and all the weight put together is about 55 kilos. If it drops onto somebody, what will happen there? So safety has always been the guiding factor. Whenever we plan something, I would say that we plan not for today, we plan for everything to be fit to be jumped again the next day.
Fair enough. Again, reiterating the fact that Sanjay had made just a little while ago, the point that he'd made about how India, as far as paratrooping and parajumping is concerned, the safety standard much better compared to a lot of countries across the world. And he's also talked about a lot of other things, including how, well, the sport is, well, as they say, an expensive sport. But Sanjay, coming back to this particular sport, what is the kind of advice that you'd love to give to the youngsters who are interested in adventure sport? And we've seen a rise as far as the interest level is concerned in a lot of the youth of today?
See, well, I think this question should have been asked to the president of the Aero Club, Captain Satish Sharma, who has a vision on it. And based on this vision, I am working on this project. We are working now, we are working on a profile to make this sport available and affordable to anyone and everyone who could be wanting to do it. So our aim is to make a skydiving jump available to somebody for maybe 500 rupees, a safe jump and a good jump. So economy I'm sure will not come in the way. I was given a responsibility for this sport to grow and to get onto a level in the Air Force. Where I started, sports parachuting was at a very primitive stage, and we got it to the desired level. I hope I'm able to come up to my brief, where I'll be able to make this sport available to anyone and everyone in the country who will have the inborn instinct in him that he wishes to do it.
Well, I definitely do hope that the vision of not only Sanjay but a lot of other people who are involved in this project does see the light of day. Just another quick question, Sanjay, as far as your jumps are concerned. You've won the Diamond Badge and also the Golden Wing from the United States Parachute Association. Different years, but just talk us through that. What is that all about?
Well, I would say all these awards and this, they just come your way. You really don't work for them. And I also would like to make a comment here. Getting the awards and getting different things from abroad are much easier than winning them at home in India.
Okay, what is the reason for that?
What is the reason is that abroad the processes are much simplified. I mean, it is like this, that you want to take a driving license today, you quote that I have an American driving license. It doesn't make you a superior driver. Well, you pay a little more fees there, that's it.
Okay, so again, boiling down to finances and nothing else. But another question here, Sanjay. You had this record in your name. You undertook 46 jumps in within a span of just 3 hours using 2 helicopters. What was the technicality as far as these 46 jumps were concerned, and what was the vision behind undertaking the jumps?
Actually, the plan was to carry out a world record by making jumps for 24 hours together. And as per the international standards, if you want to set up a 24 hours record, you are given a break of 5 minutes every hour, which you could accumulate. If you do it for 3 hours, so thereafter you can take 15 minutes rest. It was a fuel economy drive, and the Air Force prudently, the chief said that, well, we couldn't be wasting up so much of effort just to set a record, but that we could, as a service and as an individual, can we do it or can we not? This is what was trialed, and I did this feat with 2 helicopters being used simultaneously and with only 10 parachutes. And the biggest credit, whose name did not come into the feature, was my team, which supported me. And if the team wasn't there, this record would not have been there.
46 jumps in 3 hours. Well, one can only fathom and dream about it. But we have with us a man here in the studio who made it possible, who went on to do that, and that is none other than the retired Wing Commander Sanjay Thapar. And Sanjay, it's really been a pleasure to have you here with us in the studios. What we're going to do is, well, we'll leave our viewers with a few snapshots of some of the most amazing jumps that Sanjay has undertaken over his illustrious career that has lasted over 2 decades, and I'm sure it's definitely, well, just the tip of the iceberg. I'm sure there's lots more to come from Sanjay. Sanjay, thank you so much for sparing time and coming over to the studios and talking to us.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Make it जब मैंने 1982 में एशियाड गोल्ड मेडल की कुश्ती लड़ी थी, तब हमारी प्रधानमंत्री श्रीमती इंदिरा गांधी मुझे प्रोत्साहित करने के लिए स्वयं स्टेडियम में उपस्थित थी। आइए इस बार एथेंस ओलंपिक में अपने पहलवानों का हौसला बढ़ाएं, सिर्फ दूरदर्शन पर।
प्रायोजक इंडियन ऑयल।
वेलकम बैक। आप देख रहे हैं स्पोर्ट्स आर दूरदर्शन पर। मैं हूं रमन भनोट और इस 1 घंटे के प्रोग्राम में, जैसा कि मैंने आपको इस प्रोग्राम के शुरू होने पर बताया था, हम आपके लिए लेकर आते हैं सुर्खियां और देते हैं आपको जानकारी कि वर्ल्ड ऑफ स्पोर्ट में क्या हो रहा है, विश्व भर में खेल की दुनिया में क्या हो रहा है, क्या लेटेस्ट डेवलपमेंट्स हैं, क्या गतिविधियां चल रही हैं, और आपकी मुलाकात कराते हैं कुछ बड़े ही एमिनेंट और दिलचस्प लोगों से जो कि स्पोर्ट्स की दुनिया से यानी कि खेल की दुनिया से जुड़े हुए हैं। थोड़ी देर पहले हम बात कर रहे थे संजय थापर से। रिटायर्ड विंग कमांडर Sanjay Thapar is also the most experienced paratrooper as far as India is concerned. और अब we have with us in the studios another person